I was working for a large transportation company of one transport company for the entire nation. When I asked them what are the data fields you are collecting, they sent me the entire database to me.
Few months I think back, there was a trend came onto social media where people were uploading their pictures on OpenAI ChatGPT and asking to convert into Ghibli art, and they are taking the picture and sharing to everyone. From famous people to entrepreneurs to celebrities, everyone has given their information of pictures to them.
See, these applications, they always publish privacy notice, right? So people don't read it.
Okay.
Right? So they are just by default giving them the consent to use their data however they want. This is why in India DPDPA Act we have a consent manager.
Okay.
Right? So because people are not aware to understand how this information can be misused.
I have seen my friends are uploading their medical prescriptions to ChatGPT and asking them what type of recommendations you can give me if I'm having these type of issues. I mean, you are exploiting your own weakness to a system which can be used later down the line to just reprogram yourself with your answers and your recommendations.
So it's a very famous saying these days that data is a new oil. It can have a lot of negative implications as well, which was kind of allegations were made for the US elections, right? The Cambridge Analytica.
Making it clear to the people that yes, if you breach that hefty amount which you may need to pay or you may be get penalized, where this governance plays an important role in this data privacy. Hello everyone, welcome back once again on our podcast. And today we are not just discussing about anything related to tech. Indeed, it's a discussion based on tech, but we'll learn the practical implementations of data privacy. When we talk about data privacy, it's not anymore a responsibility of an individual or an organization. It's a day-to-day habit of everyone. One should take care of it. For this wonderful discussion, today I'm having someone who is having years of experience, not only implementations. When I read about him, it gives me immense pleasure to read about himself. A true expert who knows this landscape back in hands. He specialized in information security, data privacy, building the community governance and compliances. He provides consulting to multinational firms, compliance strategies across the globe. When I say this, I feel very proud. From Paris to Pune, welcome to show, sir, Mr. Rahul Kokcha with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for calling me here. And I feel privileged to join your show. And I hope this time what we are spending today and the time the people will spend in watching this, it should be worth their time.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for coming for all of us today. But by the way, audience, I must tell you, we have taken a lot of follow-up with sir because he comes with a very tight schedule, and he's going to bring a lot of information to all of us to learn something very interesting about data privacy. When I talk about this, let's start with one very basic understanding. In today's Azpirantz talk, the discussion is going to take around to understand about the privacy. We cannot forget about the GDPR, because when we talk about GDPR, we have to use the word Europe as well with the same, because it stimulates the cross-border regulations, how people has implemented, and from there only the idea of data privacy is actually started. That's why we say the mother of all regulations and laws and implementations. With this, we have also seen a surge in DPDPA Act, which is the Indian data privacy law, which has came into the considerations. When we see about the GDPR, it has an old provision of collecting data both digitally and physically, when we got to know that DPDP is more into digital data. So we'll love to know about these deep dive understandings. Just wanted to start with very fundamental purpose of privacy regulation. So we just wanted to know one thing, very basics from you, sir, that what is the agenda behind bringing these regulations, why it is important, and for general people to understand that whatever data we are controlling, whatever data we are storing, it has a rule and regulations managed by these bodies who set up the regulations, but why it is necessary these days.
Okay, so first I would start with a small correction. It's the data privacy regulations did not start with this GDPR.
Okay.
So it's it was there before GDPR as well for many years.
Okay.
But with GDPR, a new era of data privacy regulations and the focus has changed.
Okay.
Right, started basically. And with GDPR, after GDPR, they have set the gold standard, I will say,
Okay.
to the entire world that how the data privacy regulation should be defined.
Right.
And most of the other countries who are now bringing up, who have brought up the data privacy regulations after GDPR,
Okay.
have referenced it at least. Fine, it's not copy paste, but most of the concepts, most of the things you will find is very similar.
Okay.
And it's just like few things. Most of them are little lesser than GDPR. Fine. And some of them might be more stringent, fine, because I don't know all the regulations of the class entire like maybe 200 plus countries, but the regulation I have came across, GDPR sets the highest standards,
Okay.
and all other regulations are following it. When it comes to DPDP Act, so DPDP Act, India has done a really good job here and has introduced few things which is over and above the GDPR.
Oh.
Fine.
Okay.
So that we'll discuss maybe going through this discussion. And coming to the like why we have these regulations. Fine. So it's a very famous saying these days that data is a new oil.
Right.
Fine. You might have seen many like data is everything these days. Fine. So with data, we can even influence the thought process of people. Fine. You watch reels and then you get hooked to the reels.
Correct.
The kind of reels you watch, and then you keep getting the similar things. So data data is not only the advertisements, fine, that you get the targeted advertisements, but it can do it can have a lot of negative implications as well.
Right.
Fine, which was kind of allegations were made. Fine, for the US elections.
Right.
The Cambridge Analytica. Fine, so they have influenced the US election. We don't know what the truth is, but that's up to the matter of like the investigation. And there's a lot of news and other articles already there out on the internet. But the thing is like the data is very critical because in the digital world particularly, you cannot go away with your digital identity and the kind of activities you are performing. Every single activity we do, even we are recording this podcast and this will be published online, many people who will watch this, all these activities are being recorded.
Okay.
So your human behavior is being recorded. So that can be used to use this information can be used in a positive way as well as negative way.
Okay.
Fine. So the regulations are required to make sure that there is no negative usage of the information about you.
Okay.
Fine. I should be the owner of my information. Fine. Nobody should have that authority to take a decision based on my behalf. Fine. So the regulations are giving that control back to people.
Okay.
Fine. So the organizations and the large organizations, fine, the social media platforms and like the TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. So they should not take control of your data. You should have the control of your data.
Okay.
That's the primary purpose of data privacy regulations.
Okay.
So in terms of data privacy, fine. So this is called as a maintain or protecting the interest of people.
Okay.
Fine. So people are also called as data subjects here, and in Indian law it is called data principal.
Right.
Fine. And but this is to give them to protect their interest. And when it comes to like going deep into like what this data privacy, when you want to learn the data privacy, find what you had. It has two different dimensions.
Okay.
One is protecting the interest of people, fine, which is about how your data is being collected, how your data is being utilized. And second is a subset of this, that if you are collecting a data, if you are utilizing a data, you are also responsible to protect it. It does not get leaked from your systems.
Okay.
Right. So this is like the if you talk about fundamentally it is to protect the interest of people.
That sounds very
And
interesting.
when it comes to the people, so it's a government who need to take some steps. Fine. So government has one major role is making the law. So that's why these regulations are there.
Following law in India is something very critical. I think that is why it's still delayed in discussion.
Everywhere, the law is everywhere is a kind of a base for implementing anything or enforcing anything. If there's no law, you can simply get free whatever you do.
Okay, so it's just a personal question because you will be the best person to answer this. Why we see a delay in understanding that the protection of data or protection of personal data, which lies under data privacy, supposed to be back in very early in India, but we just observe this actually raised when this the surge of internet usage has came after 2016, and data utilization has increased a lot in India, which was way back in time was less. Do you think that digitalization has a bigger impact on Indian data regulation, or because there's a lot of things has been kept in archives in physical format also, in all those offices and documents? How going to be tackle about those information then?
See, Indian law is particularly about digital data, right? Something which is already filed into digital systems, or something which can be filed into digital systems, right? Many of the times we collect the data on paper, but we feed the data into the application.
Okay.
So that is also been protected by the DPDPA Act.
Okay, fine. So let's just bring this into real life. Okay, we wanted to understand, because you have a lot of stories. While we were talking back in before the podcast, you said me about amazing stories. So we would be love to know where a company had a pivot quickly comply with GDPR, because when they're implementing GDPR or they have implemented, what process they usually follow, because these are the real practical world scenarios. We wanted to know where these things have actually implemented. You'll be the right person to learn about this.
So it may be any regulation or any compliance requirement, right? So you need to first understand what the requirements are, right? And not only like we may have multiple requirements, an organization may have to comply with multiple regulations in terms of like what applies to you as a law of the land. And also, like you may have some customers or some branch offices in some different territories.
Okay.
Fine. And if it is a customer, then you will have some contracts. Fine. So the customer may have some regulations which will come to you in form of a contract, because the customer wants that to be complied with. So first is like understand all the requirements. Ideally define it as a like legal, regulatory, contractual, right? LLC.
Okay.
Right? So first define the legal, regulatory, contractual requirements, what all you have. Identify the scope of your implementation of any compliance system, fine, in maybe it's data privacy, cybersecurity, business continuity, anything.
Okay.
So you need to have the requirements need to be consolidated, means what all I need to comply with, and then based on that we also need to look at what is the scope where I want to apply this.
Okay.
And that's a very beginning thing to understand. If you start your project before understanding these two things, then your project may not be going in the right direction.
Okay. Just adding to a layer of this, sir. I have a company in India. Let's say I've been working for more than 10 years, and all of a sudden we realized to set up office in Europe. Let's say talking about London as well, and there we are keeping only 1 or 2 or 3 employees there. Do you think it'll be a challenge for us? Because the regulation we are following in India with a big amount of people, which we are actually handling, for those 2 or 3 people, there will be an additional cost of implementation of policies and regulations will be required there, or we can just make it into a cross-border understanding relationship.
See, when it comes to meeting the law of the land, fine. For example, in Europe, it's GDPR.
Right.
In India, it's DPDPA Act. Right. So wherever your operations are, and whatever the laws and regulations applies to your business, you have to comply with it.
Okay.
Irrespective of like where you are in the world.
Okay.
And what is the engagement you have between the 2 offices. So, but yes, in particularly data privacy, most of the regulations are talking about the same thing. Right? Everyone is focused on protecting the data principles or data subjects' interests.
Okay.
So the activities, the things you have to do is almost similar. Right? So that way, there is no duplication of work. But when it comes to implementing it or making it easy for implementation, looking at the specifics, what kind of data you are collecting, what kind of business you are in, what is the risk to the data principles.
Okay.
Right? And accordingly, you have to define, okay, what are the activities you need to perform on the ground. Right?
Okay.
Some of the things can be managed remotely from your larger head office, and some of the things you have to do maybe on the ground where all the offices are.
Okay.
Right? It's very subjective thing. There's no one single line answer to this, but it's very like case to case basis. The things will change. And in particular, when talking about these 2 things, like you have one office there, one office here, you need to also define. So there are 2 terminologies here.
Okay.
Right? One is data controller,
right,
and one is data processor.
Right.
Data controller is the one who decides what data to be collected and how this data to be utilized.
Right.
While the data processor is just doing some processing on the data which is already collected,
right,
and doing the defined activities on those data sets. So when you have multiple offices, it may be your direct office, it may be your subsidiary, it may be your maybe a partner office, right? You may be directly present, you may be indirectly present.
Okay.
So you need to understand, or you need to first determine what is the engagement you want to keep between these two entities.
Okay.
Whether data controller, data processor, or maybe they may also be deciding jointly what they want to do with this data. Right. So, for example, so you are hiring some people, right? So some of the parameters you are collecting is based on the local requirements, but some of the parameters you are collecting based on the requirements from the headquarters because you have some global policy. So now you become the joint controller.
Right.
Means both entities are deciding what data to be collected and how it is to be processed.
Right.
So, and the third engagement can be if you have one larger system. Right. For example, you have one HRMS. It has set fields. Anyone in any of the offices, if somebody is joining, they have to go through the same, they have to feed the same information, right? Or the similar kind of the kind of fields they have to, like, for example, you need the education details,
right,
past employment details, and some of the things may be required locally, something may not be required locally.
Right.
So, for example, emergency contact details, right? It is not required by your headquarters. It is required locally, right? But you have, in some other cases, maybe you have certain set of information that you will always feed into the application. So in that case, when the entire this setup or the engagement between the entities is centralized, controlled centrally, right, then it's more of your branch office or your or not as even the kind of subsidiary. Means everything is follows one single policy of the organization, that what data we collect and how we process the data. So there, the engagement or the relationship between these two entities can be can be seen as a multinational company. And in that case, you need to have some different kind of engagement that GDPR defines as a binding corporate rules. Right? But in India DPDP, there is no such thing defined as such. And in India DPDP, like the rules are still being formed. Right. And the data protection board is also is still working on it. We are working on it. And once those rules will be defined, we may get something, but there is nothing as such currently. Fine, as long as I know about what I have gone through, the material, what I have referred to. Right. Fine, but so now we come to three different kinds of engagement. One is data controller, data processor. Second is the joint controller, where two entities are separate. But they both are decision makers, right? And third is if we have one larger entity and we have the branches everywhere. So there it is governed by the corporate policy. There we have to what we have to define is a binding corporate rules. Means what is defined by the corporate is followed all across the regions. Okay. When you were saying about this, we have seen that in previous days, whatever type of learnings or trainings you can say, or education which we were having in terms of data privacy was based on GDPR. Now, since DPDPA coming into the actions, when Indian companies are going to implement these DPDP acts, do you think there is something which we have to unlearn, which we had an experience in GDPR, or we don't have to face any hassle on that? No, it's not like we have to unlearn something, because at the end, all the regulations are focused on the same thing. Okay. Fine. But yes, you need to understand the nitty-gritties of what is given in my law, what applies to me. For example, in India, we have a separate consent manager. This concept doesn't exist in GDPR. Right. Fine. And the definition of the child and the parents, the consent, guardians consent, fine. So that's also a little different in GDPR in India. So, but there is nothing to unlearn. Basically, the concepts are all same, but yes, the rules can be just here and there. But focus on the same thing, protecting people's interest. Okay. Now, we remember back in time when you say about this, there was regulations for data privacy back before GDPR as well. But when GDPR came, it sets a golden standard where everybody will start following them. We will be the next person or the next superpower across the globe who will come up with our regulations. I've taken a scenario of multinational. There's a company in Germany. They're working there for some tasks and regulations. They're going to follow GDPR.
Now they have to set up something in Indian regulations, in Indian workspace. They are coming to India and work. They have to tie up with Indian DPDPA Act as well. Just wanted to give a glimpse from you because you have seen things across the globe. How much challenging it will be for them, or it's good thing for us that our data gets controlled by Indian educational law institutes which they have set up. It's supposed to be not directly sent to their country for getting their benefits of whatever they're going to use in backend for those data. So just to have clear idea on that.
So when it comes to implementation, and concepts are all same.
Okay.
When it comes to implementation, there will be differences. And in terms of when you're defining the privacy policies, fine. So privacy policies as a general statement can be same.
Okay.
And notices will be very specific to the application which is collecting the data. Find what data you collect with this application, how you utilize, how long you will retain this data. Find and with whether the data what we are collecting through this application will be shared with any third party, with any cross-border entity. Right? So that becomes the again very specific. So if you have application hosted in India, collecting data from Indian public, then it has to comply with all the local things and it has to be specific to the like where the operations are.
Okay.
And if the same application has another copy, I'm using the word copy here, right? Has another copy, you can customize it based on the GDPR requirement. But the challenges can be when you have a single application now collecting data from both the sides.
Okay.
Right? So there it might be little tricky because in India we have a concept called consent manager.
Consent manager, right?
That's not there in the GDPR.
Right.
So there the consent is given by like the data subjects and directly to the data controller. But here we have to come through the data consent. Fine. Oh, sorry, consent manager. Consent manager. Fine. So the consent manager is a separate entity who will make sure that the consent is taken fairly, fine, by the controller. Fine. So they are intermediary basically between the subject and that's also a need of the India basically. Many of the people don't even understand cybersecurity, data privacy, and the legal awareness is also very low in India. Right. So that's why the government has brought up the consent manager. Right? There's somebody who is specialized, who can maintain the interest, protect the interest of the individuals or the public at large. Right? Should have some, means when the public don't know what the government will do, either we cannot educate 140 crore people in one go. Right? So this is a cultural change which will come, which will be definitely will come over time. Fine, we cannot change the things overnight. But what to do in between?
Okay.
Fine. So that's the concept of consent manager here. So if a same application is being used at both places, you'll have to see like how you integrate the consent manager for India, but not for the Europe. So that will be a change in the application.
It's very interesting. But when I talk about India, we talk about a lot of things there. We still have a belief that we have regulations, we have law. Let's take a simple example. We have sometimes habits to get stopped when the traffic light is red. But the same person sometimes have habit of breaking those red lights and cross the pathway. Where this attitude of Indian mindset really plays a role in adding a layer of governance, making it clear to the people that yes, if you breach that, there is a hefty amount which you may need to pay or you may be get penalized. So where this governance plays an important role in this data privacy.
See, governance is very connected with or linked with the risk, basically, risk management. Fine. So we call this GRC. Governance, risk and compliance.
Correct.
Fine. Yeah. And in this particular example also, I'll say people do the risk management, do the risk assessment, find whether I will be caught. Is there any camera? Is there any policeman?
Right.
If they don't see anything, they simply jump the signal.
Right.
So that is a risk assessment is we are doing in a daily life.
Right. So true.
So same is need to be applied at the organization level as well.
Okay.
So the penalty is 250 crores.
Oh yeah.
Fine. But not everyone will be fined to this level.
Okay.
Fine. So you have to see the violation, what kind of violation it is, what is the amount of the people, the quantum of people who are getting impacted. And everything will be looked into. It's not that straight away, okay, that you jump the signal and you will be like fined $10,000. Fine. It's not that like that. So this is so even this keeping these penalties, fine, is a deterrence that people will not do this.
Fine.
But again, it depends upon the law enforcement,
Hmm.
fine, and how strictly we are implementing it, our vigilance, like how strictly we are monitoring it, fine, and the role of the data protection board as well.
Okay.
Fine. So data protection board is the supervisory authority here.
Right.
Fine. A lot of things will depend on them, that how they function.
Okay. There's one question we got from one of our viewer. They have stored this for you. They say that if I am a chief data officer and listening you right now, what's the first thing I should do to my compliance roadmap?
Well, the first thing is same as I said earlier. You need to understand your requirements,
Okay.
consolidate all legal, regulatory, contextual requirements, and business requirements as well.
Okay.
And in data privacy, it's more about the contract and the legal. That's why I'm referring to only legal,
Okay.
regulatory, and contractual. But in any other compliance, we need to understand legal, regulatory, contractual, and business requirements. When what all I need to comply with, and what all is needed for my business.
Okay.
Then identify the scope of your implementation. Sometimes the scope defines the requirement, and sometimes the requirements also impact the scope.
Right.
For example, you have a contract with a European entity, right, and you're processing their data.
Right.
So how can you how can you scope out that GDPR, right, or their contract in particular, right? So when you have defined the scope, for example, you define the scope for one particular project, one particular customer maybe, fine. But your requirements are that you need to, or there's a contextual requirement, fine, that you need to do the similar thing for the other projects as well, for the other customers as well, fine. So I will say bring all of them to the scope so that you are meeting the requirements of your customers, meeting the requirements of your law, fine. So the requirements can also affect the scope, and the scope will also affect the requirements.
Okay.
Fine. If your scope is within India, or within maybe a facility in Noida,
okay,
they're processing data for 2 customers.
Right.
Fine. Your scope will be limited to those 2 customers.
Right.
Fine. So these 2 things you need to understand first. Have a sign off of your authoritative manager, fine, whosoever is sponsoring you the implementation of this compliance framework. So then you start with. If the scope is not finalized or the requirements are not understood correctly, then you'll have to redo a lot of things.
So, sir, just wanted to know one thing from you, sir. अभी हमने जो डिस्कस किया, आपने मुझे एक बात बताई कि कंसेंट मैनेजर जो एक एंटाइटी सेपरेट है, वो GDPR में नहीं है, बट दो वी हैव इन DPDP एक्ट. उसी से सब्सिडरी जुड़ी हुई एक और टॉपिक आता है व्हेन इट रिगार्डिंग कंट्रोलिंग द डिसीजंस एंड डेटा, वो है DPO. सो हाउ इज दिस DPO डिफरेंट with consent manager wala department, and also wanted to know ki how we see the adding of more and more job opportunities after the implementation of these law, what people should think now, abhi kya cheezein hame implement karni chahiye.
Okay, see, consent manager and DPO is definitely, like what you said, it's a different concept, and consent manager in itself will be processing a lot of data. Fine. If I am a consent manager managing consent of people for maybe larger organizations, fine, maybe telecom banks, fine. So imagine मेरे पास कितना डेटा मेरे पास होगा.
Right, सही बात है.
Fine. And our DPDP Act says कि DPO is required for the significant data fiduciaries. It's a position required. And similarly, it's given in the GDPR also, but the definitions are little, the wordings are different. Right? So when you're collecting the data, fine, of thousands or lakhs of people, fine, so you have a higher risk. Fine, so DPO is definitely needed. But when you're a small entity, fine, still there has to be someone who is responsible for the organization. एक छोटा होटल है, ठीक है, उस होटल में आप डेटा कलेक्ट करते हो, पासपोर्ट लेते हो, आधार कार्ड लेते हो, फोन नंबर लेते हो, ईमेल एड्रेस लेते हो, ठीक है, एंड होटल का फोकस कभी भी सिक्योरिटी पे नहीं, डेटा सिक्योरिटी पे नहीं होगा. करेक्ट. फाइन. They have a very simple business. We have the property. We want to rent it out. Right. Fine. And the kind of people who are running those hotels, they are also not very tech savvy. सही बात है. So इस इंडस्ट्री में आप कैसे इंश्योर करोगे कि आपका डेटा की प्रोटेक्शन हो रही है और डेटा का यूटिलाइजेशन ठीक हो रहा है? I believe personally we have CAs, the chartered accountants.
Okay.
Right? Not every company will hire a full-time chartered accountant, but every single company who is has a requirement for an audited report. That's again is maybe a small company as well, private limited, maybe,
Right.
Fine. But there are many other organizations also like who are seeking the help of the CS, hiring CS in a like on a contractual basis, for example, just to maybe finalize the balance sheet,
Right.
or just to maybe fill the tax data. Even the individuals are also sometimes going to the CA to file their tax data.
Right.
Similar kind of opportunity is there with the DPOs as well.
Okay.
Because I give the example of hotel.
Right.
Fine. होटल बड़ा है, नाम भी बड़ा है, अगर उस पर अटैक हुआ या डेटा ब्रीच हुआ या कोई पेनल्टी लगी,
सही बात,
तो होटल का रेपुटेशन भी जुड़ा है उसके साथ.
सही है, करेक्ट.
तो कोई भी अच्छा 4 स्टार 5 स्टार होटल विल नॉट वांट कि मेरा नेगेटिव लिस्ट में नाम है. ठीक है, तो वो कैसे, और उनका बिजनेस नहीं है ये, तो how they will make sure that they're doing the right thing.
Right.
They don't have this expertise.
Right.
So they will be definitely depending on the outsourcing this.
Right.
So there will be a huge opportunity, right, to provide the consulting services in the data privacy domain. Right? And the DPO is a particular position, and they are not the decision makers, but they are the kind of watchdogs.
Okay.
For the organization.
Okay.
and for the they are basically एक मेरा friend है accounts में, right? Just giving an example.
Right.
उसके पास लगभग 18-20 लोगों की टीम है.
Okay. बिल्कुल.
And once I was sitting with him, he said like हमारा पूरा डिपार्टमेंट काम क्या करता है, सैलरी प्रोसेस करने वाले सिर्फ 2 लोग हैं. बाकी we are basically working for the government.
Okay.
We file the GST, which is a government thing.
Right.
We file the income tax, which is a government thing. And they are into SEZ zone. Fine. SEZ की जितनी compliances हैं, we are sitting here for this. So we are not working for the company basically. We are paid by the company. We are actually working for the government.
Right.
All the entire team is working for the government. Fine. So we are being paid by the company, but actually we are working for the government.
Right.
Because it's a government requirement. Similarly for the DPO as well.
Okay.
Fine. So DPO is a person. Fine. Is a kind of a officer in the organization who will be working for the ensuring the compliance of the regulation.
Okay.
Fine. But basically he will be paid by the company. Not every company will be having that economically viably hiring a DPO full time. Fine. So, but definitely a kind of a authority will be required in each organization who is collecting and processing the public data. Fine. And at some scale.
Okay. Very.
With the DPDP Act, they have specifically defined for the significant data fiduciaries, they have to have it. But for others, they may not have the full time. Fine, but they may outsource this.
It's a very realistic example. People can compare with CA respect to DPO.
Yes.
Sometimes individuals also need CA. Sometimes big organizations also need CA. So they'll be coming in time and DPOs will be called like this only.
Yes.
On a year of audit, they'll be called and please check my data is managed properly or not.
Yes.
Very true.
As the CA can be qualified chartered accountant, or they may be simple accountant, fine, who probably when it requires the signatures, they take services from other CAs. Same with the DPO will also go. Fine. Okay. So many of the lawyers are also coming to cybersecurity. So they have the background of the law as well as they want to get into data privacy. But many of the people who see this DPDP is an act. So act is a legal issue.
Right.
Fine. So many of the organizations, many of the people will be having the expertise in the cybersecurity and data privacy, but may not be a qualified lawyer.
Okay.
Fine. So they will also have tie-ups with the lawyers. Fine. In case anything to be filed, anything to be done with the government, any cases are being filed, so they will take their services from the legal perspective.
Okay.
But practically, from implementation perspective, the cybersecurity data privacy people will be on the ground.
Though very true. One thing we wanted to add in this as well. So India is a place where we do talk about cost effectiveness. Whether we are sending a space shuttle to Mars, which is comparatively cheaper to the other nations which we have done, whether we are talking about space explorations or any implementation. Here also we'll be going to talk about the cost effectiveness. So when we talk about the cost effectiveness, what's your suggestion on this? That should an organization look out for the internal team and getting them learn and implement back to their system for these implementation of privacy acts, or look for the external consultant?
It's very subjective. If depends on the scale, at what scale you are, and how many, what kind of data you are maintaining, right? And what do you have really a full-time 8 hours a day job for this in this domain? For the hotel industry, definitely it is not a viable to
Okay.
hire someone full time.
Okay.
Fine, so they will be outsourcing it. But for the other, maybe the bank, maybe they have multiple branches and huge data they are doing. So it will be more feasible for them to hire someone full time.
Okay.
So it's very subjective, like depends on how much data you maintain.
For the larger organization, it's better that we should look out
Yes.
for the specific.
Larger is subjective. The organization may be larger, but not processing large amount of personal data.
Okay.
Right? The quantum of data, it depends.
Okay. You mentioned about the scope, you mentioned about the requirement. What if an organization or individual has taken care of these two informations? They have cleared their scope problems, they have cleared the requirement ideas. What's the next step they should look after now?
Okay. So first understand the organization structure and organization business. Then identify what are the departments where we collect the data. For example, hiring, and HR, recruitment, where we collect the data. Similarly, marketing, sales, we might be collecting data. Fine. So depending upon depending upon the business, and you need to identify which departments we have data. When it comes to departments, you will know who are the department representatives, stakeholders. Fine. So that becomes you identify the stakeholders. Now, when these departments are collected, you connect with them. You understand what data they are collecting, how they are collecting the data.
Okay.
So what you will get to know is the data collection points. Whether they are filling up the forms, or they have some app, they are collecting data from on the email. Maybe they are requesting information. In what form the data is coming to them. So from there we get to know the data collection points, and from the data collection point you identify the data flow in the organization.
Okay.
If the data is being collected by a department, how it will be utilized within the organization. So it might, for example, for the sales, the sales department will have the data. By marketing will probably fetch the leads,
Right.
give it to the sales, and will go for the operations, for the delivery, and for the accounts, for the billing. Fine. So means collecting the information from the marketing, it is going to the sales, accounts, and operations. So this is the data flow you need to identify.
Okay.
Right. So first, understanding business, identify stakeholders, identify data collection points, then understand the data flow. Fine. You will be able to build your data inventory.
Okay.
Fine. With the data inventory, you also define, with what are all departments you are sharing this data with. Fine. What are third parties you're sharing this data with. Fine. It is not necessary that you need to document everything in one sheet. Fine. So data inventory may be just a data inventory of the collection point. Fine. Further, in the records of processing activities, that separate the document which we create. So there also you can define the data sharing and all. Fine. But it depends upon how you want to structure it. When there is no such regulation, there is no such requirement where they specify that you have to do some documentation in certain way. Right? You need to comply with the requirements, but documentation can be in any order. So this data inventory, once you understand what all data you have and how the data is being shared, fine, you do the risk assessment.
Okay.
Fine. Risk assessment is done in two ways, in two dimensions, I will say. One is, are we collecting the right data, or are we over collecting data? Right. And second is the data collection, data processing, data storage is secured enough that there is no chances of attack or breach. Okay. Fine. So again, two dimensions. One is understanding how the data is utilized, and second is protecting this data. Right. So how the data is utilized is called as a privacy impact assessment. Right. And the outcome of this will also be you can feed into this register. Right. And I generally prefer to have one common risk register for both. Right. That you understand, you put all the risk in one common register, whether it is a compliance risk or a security risk, so that you can have unified view at where you are failing, or where the other risk basically. Okay. Right. So then remaining things are the documentation about policy, notices, breach management, and data subject can also make requests. So you need to have the workflow, how you will receive the request, how you will process the request, what will the timelines, what will the escalation metrics, and the most important, to change the culture in the organization to take this personal data very seriously. And because it's about, sometimes we send the data over the email, we might be, if you have to share with some external party, we might be uploading in some free cloud-based file sharing solutions. So that's an awareness program. You need to run the awareness campaign in the organization, tell people, see, this is serious. You cannot simply share data without protection. And these are the specific tools you have to use. You cannot simply go on the internet and upload this data anywhere. Fine. I have a very about the cultural thing. I was working for a large transportation company of one transport company for the entire nation. Fine. I asked them what are the data fields you are collecting. They sent me the entire database to me.
Okay.
So that's the awareness is important.
Right.
Otherwise, these actions are kind of exposing your data. Fine. So that personal data is a sensitive information. Fine. We should not be exposing it. Fine. And if people are aware of it, they will not do this.
One thing while you were speaking about this, I have heard way back in time also when I was listening to you and reading about you that over collection, because when you over collect any data, now the thing that I have understand from that previously when you said about this, that the minimum you collect, the lesser you will be get questioned if anything happens. So it's better to collect less and be more optimized and be more, you can say, productive in the similar amount of data. If one information can make you all tasks done, no need to collect more, because the more you take, the more responsibilities will be added to your layer as well. So while back in time we have no habits of asking to everyone, okay, you give me your PAN also, you give me your Aadhaar also, you give me your passport also. This doesn't work, give me that doesn't work, give me this. We kept on collecting information from the people. I think now this will give an idea to organizations also to collect one specific document which is really helpful for you and allows you to be also on the safer side and the user as well.
I was filling up a form of a bank. It's a government bank.
Okay.
They were asking about my religion.
Okay.
Why the bank need to do what bank need to do with my religion?
Absolutely.
Fine. So this is the state what is happening on the ground, but these things will change once this new act comes into the force.
This is very interesting because we also do see a lot of options there which are non-optional, but still they are being asked by us and give it to us. I was talking to you before the podcast. You showed me a very interesting thing. Back in 10 years, 12 years back, when we used to have physical bank passbooks, if you lost your passbook somewhere, it's in the market in anyone's hand. They can read your account number, they can read your transactions, they can read your address, they can get your contact number, they can get your email ID, everything out there. But just now we got to know that these are getting into the process where they start masking your personal data, which could not be leaked. I mean, they can see what amount is there, but they cannot identify who is the person behind that.
They want to see the name, but not the full phone number, not the full email address, not full PAN number, not full account number. So that type of things they have started masking.
They're coming.
So masking is partial currently, and see why you need to just identify that this is your card, this is your account. Fine, you can identify this. You will not have thousands of accounts. Right, you'll have maybe 2, 3, 4, at max 10 accounts.
Right.
You can identify with the last 3 digits. You can identify this is your account. Which account is this one? What you read in the statement for? Right, so that should be enough.
Okay, you talk a lot about the frameworks. So just for the
the idea of masking this is if the statement goes in the wrong hands, right, or if you share with someone, your data shouldn't get exposed to the other people.
Do you think when we are giving our documents or any informations to any organizations for any purpose of registrations, or you talk about HRMS as well. Let's say I'm joining an organization and I'm giving them my Aadhaar card to them, and I'm giving my PAN cards to them. There could be some information they're constantly asking to me to give, but I can ask them clearly that why do you need these specific documents? So these subject to question, is it a right which people should start practicing?
Yes, you can question, and not only that, you can mask your some of the digits of the Aadhaar card, and you can download the masked Aadhaar from the Aadhaar website also now.
Okay,
right, and more than this, same organization, different departments sometimes keep asking for the same documents, and again and again, like in different use cases.
Right.
For example, when you are traveling, fine, they may still ask you again all the documents what you already submitted to the HR.
Right.
Fine, to process your visa or something.
Right.
Fine. So why you are making more data collection points? Fine. If you collected the data all once, if it is with the organization, you should define the workflow in a way that the organization should not need to collect the data they already collected.
Okay. So we have observed, sir, this the culture these days in India. We have a startup culture or SMEs culture. They are not that big enough. They just started the business. Now, you mentioned about collecting the data from the clients and then working in your business, handling your business. I have observed personally also that there is one Excel sheet which anybody can drop and download in their device. Now they are taking the screenshot of it and sending to their manager. The manager is taking the screenshot of the document of the customer and ID and sending to the accounts. Now imagine that one customer got enrolled for that small startup. His data is rolling around all the employees in their mobile phone. If one day if it gets stolen up, if it's one day it's go to XYZ location, a big amount of loss could be there for the person. And we never know whose data they are actually revolving around there. So what culture do you think has to be implemented there?
For the startups, they have the crunch of resources.
Okay.
Fine. And in the startups, you want to get the things done.
Right.
Then to look into whether you have the best in class systems in place. Fine. So they are constrained by the cost, constrained by the people, by number of people they have, the resources they have, and they are trying to build something. Fine. So they are more focused on it.
Okay.
So definitely that has risks in itself, and because there is no dedicated officer who is maintaining the cybersecurity data privacy for it, and it's more about getting things done at pace.
Okay.
Fine. So because of that, lots of things gets compromised, and at the other side, the startups might be dealing with a lot of data. For example, you launch an app and which people download and register. Right? So then you will be collecting data from the people directly. And if you're not into that type of business, if you're a startup building something not linked with the public, but maybe for the B2B business or something, then the risk is low.
Okay.
Fine. So because first is quantum is not there. And second, you are a small shop, so less number of targeted attacks will happen to you.
Okay.
Fine. But yes, the risk is there. Fine. You cannot eliminate the risk.
Okay. So what one early stage recommendations or guidance would you love to give to these organizations? Because we understand there's a limitation of resource, but what basic practices they should follow so that once they get bigger, to control the bigger amount of impact of data, they'll be ready to at least streamline the process.
Yeah. So the answer lies in the same my first point I said earlier.
Yeah.
You need to understand your legal, regulatory, contractual, and business requirements.
Okay.
Right. Once you understand it, and most of the startups, that's the main problem. So they don't understand the requirements of their cybersecurity and the regulations, data privacy regulations. And that's why all these things happen. They're focused. They have some idea. They're focused on implementing that idea. Fine. So they have no idea about the rest of the things. Fine. Not about the rest of the things, but they're not expertise. They don't have expertise into this data privacy, cybersecurity, all these other domains. Right. So they're focused on. They have an idea and they're focused on it only. Right. So they need to understand again legal, regulatory, contractual, and business requirements, and they can set it early in the early stages, which will be good for them. While building it, and after they are built, they'll not have to redo a lot of things.
One more thing that comes into my mind after when you said about this, sir, the surge in cloud infrastructures and the surge in these work from home culture, do you think has brought more fragility of handling data and maintaining? Because we never know where our staff is sitting and working in which exposing environment. Let's say I have one of accountant hired and he is on my work from home process. He may be using any public Wi-Fi to just run his own system, and all of a sudden because of that public Wi-Fi using, and he got stuck into some intrusion of virus or something, and he just corrupted the entire document which we have given to them. Do you think this culture need to get more vigilant to understand about a practice of awareness?
You need to implement the controls in a way that, you see, laptops are everywhere. Fine. So after the COVID, particularly, people have stopped buying desktops; they are buying laptops, and laptops you carry home.
Right.
So the risk is there. So, but yes, what controls you have for the end users, that matters a lot.
Okay.
Fine. If you have the right controls in place, those things will not be possible. Fine. Or will be difficult at least.
But as a user level, if I'll say, because many, as you mentioned about small organizations, they do not set up this secure system, or you can say of a system which is linked to one specific range of communications, or you can the SharePoint system. There are many ways that people collect the data. But as a user, being a responsible user for your organizations, what few things which we should always carry up?
Same thing, do the risk assessment.
Okay.
Fine. Do the risk assessment and understand what, see, every organization has unique in its own way.
Mm.
Right? Everyone is unique, and the risks are also different.
Mm.
Right? They may have similar risks, right? But the nitty-gritty implementation details and their priorities and likelihood, impact will be different. Right? Each organization is unique. You have to understand what is the issue we have in the organization and how we can fix it.
Okay.
Right? And once you focus on particular use case, right? A particular asset, particular information asset, right? Then you will get the right answer. Right? There's no like a very generic answer for this.
Okay. Cool. One thing after this comes into our mind, you will be the right person to give us, because whenever a new technology, whenever a new trend comes into our market, we always get learnings from our elders who have gone through with a lot of experiences. These days, we are seeing the way implementation of AI and usage of AI has surged great. Few months, I think back, there was a trend came onto social media where people were uploading their pictures on these OpenAI Chat GPT and asking to convert into Ghibli art, and they are taking the picture and sharing to everyone. From famous to famous people, to entrepreneurs, to celebrities, everyone has given their information of pictures to them. Now, being an individual person, if you see this attitude of people sharing their informations constantly to these big giant who control a lot amount of privacy consents of our own data, what's your one instance on this?
See, these applications, they always publish privacy notice. Right? So people don't read it.
Okay.
Right? So they are just by default giving them the consent to use their data however they want to.
Okay.
And this is why in India DPDPA Act we have the consent manager.
Okay.
Right? So because people are not aware to understand how this information can be misused, right? And controllers want to do the business. They want to utilize the information they are collecting to the maximum level in the legal framework, within the legal framework. So the consent manager will be creating a balance between what are the interests of the people and how the data will be utilized by the controller.
Okay.
Right. So this is why in DPDP Act, this is a unique concept, considering the culture in India is being brought up.
So if any new thing or any new trends are coming in consideration, we should always keep in mind, just don't become the part of it.
Yes.
Always focus on the privacy first and then become part of it.
Yeah. Why you want to be on social media? Like, I believe personally, if I know you, if I really remember you, I will simply pick a phone and will call you.
Right.
Fine. I don't make friends on social media that way.
Right.
Okay. Why? If somebody is not in touch, somebody don't want to be in touch. Fine. You be happy in your life. Let me be happy in my life.
Correct. But there's one understanding which I think people should understand, because whenever they are sharing anything on their social media accounts or any of these applications, let's say talk about, I have seen my friends are uploading their medical prescriptions to ChatGPT and asking them what type of recommendations you can give me if I'm having these type of issues. I mean, you are exploiting your own weakness to a system which can be used later down the line to just reprogram yourself with your answers and your recommendations. And we were very shocked after 3 days. He asked to the same GPT who was trained by him, constantly talking to him that I'm planning for a trip and can you recommend me what type of food I should eat. It just categorized automatically and tell him that don't eat this because you had a problem I got to know 3 days back. And how scary is that? You just dumped one information, it hasn't even got forgot by them. And I think this is very much important these days. We just not share our personal data in just bulk the way we are doing as a part of fancy communications.
So AI vendors or these companies, the ChatGPT, Gemini, so they are significant data fiduciaries.
Okay.
Right? So they have more stricter controls in the DPDP Act as well, and in GDPR also. They have a separate. They are processing the sensitive data.
Okay.
And it's all about the risk basically.
Right.
So risk assessment is a base for implementing these controls and putting the tighter controls on these fiduciaries or controllers as well. So it's like people who don't understand. Right? People need to understand. They need to. It's ultimately at the end, it's you who is providing them the information.
Okay.
Right? If you are not aware, you have a very minimal secure protection for yourself.
Okay. I think we all have to be more vigilant. We should not
Yes.
give a duplicate key of our house to these organizations to
Yes.
just enter into our data privacy part.
Yeah.
Very nice, very amazingly you have mentioned about everything, sir. And I think it's a conversation where everybody can talk about. A new generational people can also learn, and high-tech consulting people who are working for an organization can also learn how to implement about these things. We are very pleasure to have you. You brought up a lot of diverse information for all of us, to all our viewers, to all our learners. Just anything you would love to say at last, and then we can sum up.
It's about, I will say, like for the organizations and for the people both. Fine, you need to take accountability and assume your ownership.
Okay.
For the organizations, the data they collect, they are accountable for it. Fine, and for us, and they are the owner of their controls, their systems, their applications.
Okay.
And for us, we are accountable for the information we share publicly, and we are accountable. We should take ownership of our own data. And that's a key. That's a key message I would want to say.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. It's very
Thank you so
nice
much.
having you and having sharing words with you. And I must say it has been equal part of insightful and actionable learnings for all of us and to our viewers as well. We will be adding more Azpirantz talks for all of you, bringing where we not just talk about the technology or the resource which is getting utilized to start up any framework. We talk about the real learnings and implementation, because when we talk about drawing a picture, you just need a canvas, you need paint, and you need to be get taught by an artist. But what about the creativity of implementing that thing? To just carve that canvas, a picture on it. Let's say you was making a painting and the immediate hall gets into a dark place, no light out there. Such situations can be encountered on real world and practical world. There, a person like Rahul sir for sure keep us guiding us to know what practical implementation we should keep on doing with real world and real life scenarios. Thank you sir for coming us and joining us today and making a very insightful session for all of us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for inviting. I hope this will be useful for your audience.
Yeah, for sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Until next time, stay secure, stay vigilant, and keep learning and improvising your data privacy journey. Thank you.